Hey guys, amidst my day off, which is not really my day off from stream because I'm basically making the final guide of the different buffs, upcoming units, archer, saber, and everything. Oh my god, I need sleep so badly. But yeah, out of all these situations, I just wanted to quickly share some light into the 200 pools for Archer Signature Lycon situation and bring you guys a perspective as to exactly what is going on with this event using data and facts. I will not be bringing any biases or agenda as to whether or not this event is good or bad, but rather taking my personal points with numerical data for you guys to draw your own conclusions because there is a painful amount of misinformation, agenda pushing, and everything in between for the last 48 hours. And fundamentally, at the end of the day, I really like HSR, if you guys couldn't tell from all of my content, and I just don't really like the fact that this kind of stuff is going on. So maybe this video can help some of you guys out there. I've come to realize that no matter what people say, the only thing that never lies at the end of the day will always be numbers, right? They don't really care about your feelings, don't care about your emotions, your beliefs, and numbers are the universal truth, and in my opinion, the best way to discuss this entire situation. It has been a very peaceful couple of weeks, and my mental health has never been better, dissociating myself from like drama and war, so I like to say this way, and without further ado, let's just jump straight in, right? So I would want to first establish that no, this video isn't sponsored by Kuro Games or Hoyo Games or anyone. As a matter of fact, I made this with my own time, my own effort, as well as my own will, in order to shed light into a topic that has been brigaded by quite a lot of people who are either uninformed, misinformed, or basically just have an agenda to push, right? And I know that at the end of the day, there will be some individuals that want to take my content with ill intention, and at this point, I am well over it because people will always believe what they want to believe, and I respect everyone's opinion even if they differ from mine, because at the end of the day, we are all playing the same online casino, but they are basically in a different skin, and there's basically no moral high ground to be had over whether my casino is going to be better than your casino. So if you believe that I genuinely enjoy the games that I play as well as I cover them out of passion, just as I ever have since day one, then that's great, right? Welcome to the community. And if you believe that I'm like a Hoyo dick sucker because I play HSR or any Hoyo games, then so be it as well. That's genuinely is no hard feelings for me because at the end of the day, I know for myself, I'm happy with the things that I'm doing for all of my content, and that's good enough for me, right? So I know that at least for myself, it is quite miserable to make a career out of hating something I don't even enjoy. So my content will reflect exactly what I want to represent for myself as well as my community. So in that same light, I know there are also comparisons made between the HSR's 200 pool event to Wuthering Waves, the little market event, and I will not be discussing nor comparing both events at all because number one, they are fundamentally different games with a different currency as well as the different valuation for your consumer demand. And number two, I'm nowhere near as knowledgeable with regards to Wuthering Waves pool income or like how quality of life, how much more devs at this moment they are for the general player base and the shop comparison. And lastly, number three, I just simply don't give a damn about the Wuthering Waves night market, right? So if players love HSR, my job here is to make sure that you have the best possible experience with HSR and my HSR related content. And if players love Wuthering Waves, that's also completely fine because there are numerous other passionate Wuthering Waves CCs to watch, unless you would like to see my tourist performances in Wuthering Waves. Alright, so the only purpose of this video is to simply focus on honkaistarrail's first ever 200 pool Lycon event, which has been dubbed as either the most player-friendly event in HSR history to give not only a free collab unit, but potentially a free limited Lycon alongside with the unit. Or it has also been labeled as the most predatory event in the history of mainstream gacha games, demanding 200 pools before you can even get a Lycon. So after all of this being established, let's just jump straight into the very first question, which is whether or not this event is even predatory, right? So the very first thing to establish is that, is this predatory? And the answer is, at the end of the day, yes, it absolutely is predatory. And anyone else saying that this event is not predatory, they either have not played enough gacha games to see how the game works, or they basically just have something to hide, right? There is no question that tying a free Lycon to spending 200 pools does have the objective of artificially increasing your buyer's pressure on using the pools within the patch of version 3.4, most likely to increase the pools as well as, at the end of the day, money spent within the collab banner in order to reflect a more positive result with Tide Moon, to ensure that the collab does have a higher chance of success between Hoyoverse as well as Tide Moon, right? And from my limited understanding of a collab between gacha brands, the two parties, they have to come into an agreement that if the IP from the collab brand will be incorporated with the parent brand, so in this case Hoyoverse and HSR, there will be an agreement that the parent brand would pay either an agreed amount to the collab IP, splitting the revenue based on the income for that collab period, or at the very least reflect data showing that the collab has indeed been a success between both parties. So adding the two 200 pulls for Archer's Light Cone, it is one of the easiest ways to boost demand for either the fake banners, final banner, or even the rerun banners. And whether or not players really want to spend the 200 pulls, that's going to be ultimately up to them. But this definitely adds a layer of incentive and pressure, no matter how small, to do the pulls within this patch of version 3.4. Would it have been nicer to make it lesser than 200, like 150, 150, or maybe like even completely for free? Absolutely, right? Without a shadow of a doubt, if it was less amount of pulls, then it would not be as predatory, and it is unfortunate that the number is going to be at 200. So with that being established though, HSR, just like any gacha game in the world, it fundamentally runs on the business model of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And almost every single mechanic within a gacha game, they are inherently predatory. From the very first step of spending money in order to obtain new units of progression within the game itself, time and skill, it is no longer the main currency for consumers or gamers in a gacha game. It is ultimately about the size of your wallet, which will award anyone that is willing to pay. And at this point, if you're playing a gacha game, be it HSR or any of the titles that are going to be gacha game, and you think that a gacha game is not predatory, then I unfortunately have very, very sad news for you. So with this being established, this brings on to the main part of the video, in which a lot of people are either misinformed, intentionally spreading misinformation due to agenda pushing, or simply the hatred for the game itself. And yes, this event is predatory by nature, but is it player friendly? Because there is a fundamental difference between a predatory event as well as a player friendly one, and both of them can exist within the same side of the coin. So it's a little bit similar to those, those 10,000% value, 3 billion% value packs on sale. Like for example, if you spend $1 your first time top up purchase, you get like 10 or 20 pulls, or like even from a very simple like battle pass and monthly pass, which gives you a huge amount of in-game resources for a very, very low cost. By nature, all of these packs as well as deals, they are ultimately predatory because they are designed to induce FOMO from losing resources at a perceived higher than expected value, because you would have paid a much lower price in order to obtain all of these resources. But at the same time, if players truly enjoy the game and they want to progress at an expedited pace, either through more pools or more resources by spending a less amount of currency or money involved in the game, then you can say that these very same predatory deals, they are also considered to be player friendly, at least in contrast with a lot of the other in-game currency shop items, right? So this point, I would now be breaking down the math as well as statistics behind the entire 200 pools event right over here, especially with regards to the number 200 and its significance. So as you can see from this little Excel over here, I basically tabulated the data between 3 different banners in order to maintain a little bit more of a bigger sample size, which means that our data is going to reflect at a more accurate pace between Casris banner, Aircron banner, as well as Scylla banner for both the limited unit itself as well as the signature light code, right? So across all of these pools, you can see that the combined total of pools for the limited banner units are around 97 million, and then the total number of pools for a limited light code is going to be around 16 million, right? Now the main thing over here after all of this, you can see right here, the most important thing is the number 77 as well as 69. These are the median number of pulls required in order to get a 5-star. And this number, the median, is very, very important because there has been a potential misinformation where people take the average number of pulls, right? And personally, if you want to take a look at statistics or you don't understand how statistics works, using average to represent a data point has never really been a true representation, because the outliers, right, the anomalies from all the way from like extremely high and extremely low, it would affect the accurate findings of the data itself. A very common example is, for example, you would never really take a look at the average salary of the nation, because it would include the people who are living below the poverty line as well as the ultra rich billionaires, right? It wouldn't be an accurate representation of what the income is like for the entire country. So a more accurate representation for data, it should always be taking median into account, because that is where the highest number of population within the data set actually lies, right? So taking a look at this, the median number of pulls required to get a 5-star for a unit is gonna be 77. You can see from all these over here, 24.4%, 24.45%, 24.64%. It is around the same ballpark of 77 pulls, a little bit plus minus 1 at 76 and 78 respectively, but 77 is going to be the median. And then for the signature light cone over here, you can see that the number is going to be at 69, right? At 28.63%, 27.35%, as well as 28.67% respectively. A little bit more towards the 68, not as much towards the 70, but on median, that is going to be 69. And this is going to bring us to the most important topic of this entire video. So if you take a look at this little graph over here, the median number of pulls for a unit is going to be 77 to get 5-star, whereas for a light cone is going to be 69. The win rate for a unit is 50%, and the win rate for a light cone is going going to be 75%. And yes, right, 50-50 and 75-25, they are predatory, right? Boo, this is very bad, right? Remove 50-50, right? Remove 75-25. Okay, with that out of the way, the actual number of pools for a limited unit inclusive of the 50-50 as well as 75-25 is going to be 115.5 and 86.25 respectively, which means if you combine the cost of both on a general population, right, the median population, you would be spending 201.75 pools in order to pool for an E0S1. Now, I have been told by some data, especially back from CI, I think I made this video last year, where it's actually not really 50-50. It is more towards 54% winning or like 54.5% winning as opposed to 50. I'm not going to take that into consideration. I will just take what the in-game data show, which is 50-50 and 75-25. So you would take, generally speaking, 201.75 pools for an E0S1. Now, there are players that take way more than this, and there are also players that take way less than this, but this is the general population. If you were to pool in Honkai Starbucks, this would be the general amount of pools required for an E0S1. This number is actually very, very important, and you can see that this number 201.75 is almost the exact same as the number of pools required to get to Archer's signature light cone, which is at 200 pools. Are you guys starting to see the connotation over here? Because at the end of the day, a company, especially a gacha game company, they fundamentally always work around probability as well as math to see how the product is going to be marketed to the average player base as well as the demographic. So they definitely have the data, as you can see over here, to come up with a measure in which best reflects the most optimal point with regards to designing an event. And I would say this number is very, very close to the amount of pools generally speaking required for an E0S1, which means if you want to talk about the value of the free signature light cone, right, the value of Archer's signature light cone itself, you can just sum it up as the equivalent of 86.25 pools, which is the amount of pools you would need generally to pull a signature light cone, and that is going to roughly translate into 13,800 stellar jades. So with all that being established, this means that the value of this event itself, it is going to be one of, if not the highest value within Honkai StarRail for the past 2.5 years, because it is equivalent to 13,800 stellar jades, especially for players that already wanted to pull for Archer's signature light cone in the first place, right? So with all this being established, for players that are already going to spend the pools needed for E0S1 in any banner, right? It doesn't have to be Saber, it doesn't have to be like pulling for an Archer Eidolon or a Finon Eidolon. It could be like Finon, Tribi, Saber, any of the reruns, whatever it's gonna be. If you already wanted to save up your pools for the Fate Codec event ahead of time, then this additional limited light cone is quite literally saving players 86.25 pools or 13,800 stellar jades using the median count, which is the general count of the number of pools you would need to get the E0S1. So for players that have been saving for this collab, which has been announced for a very, very long time, and they have been diligently pulling all of their stuff, you know, not getting tempted by FOMO, being content with the resources, right? Save, skip cash rate, skip whatever it's gonna be. This event is perhaps one of the most player-friendly event that has created in Honkai StarRail, strictly in terms of perceived value from the stellar jades that you have otherwise spent, which is gonna be 13,800 if you wanted to get E0S1 Saber as well as E0S1 Archer and the very, very first place, right? No, this event is not just limited to spending players, because there are numerous free-to-plays who have time and time again shown that they have the self-control to save as well as prepare for any banner, not just for a specific Fate Codec banner, right? So that is pretty much the main thing I want to get across. And now I'm going to be addressing some of the more common counterpoints. I'll just name 3 because I do want to keep this video as nuanced as possible while clearing up as many information at the same time, right? And the first of which is being, I only have like 10 pools, right? 20 pools. I only have 30 pools, right? I don't have enough pools to hit the 200 pools in order to get the Archer light code. Now, this is one of the most common points brought up where a population of the player base has insufficient pools to obtain the 200 pool mark in order to get the free Archer light code. Or free-to-plays, they are completely locked off from this event because there's no way a free-to-play can get 200 pools within 3.4. Because generally speaking, within a single patch for Honkai StarRail, I don't think there has ever been a single patch which gives a free-to-play player more than 100-ish pools. Maybe launch they gave out like 120, 130-ish, but it is basically almost impossible to save up 200 pools within this period of 3.4, right? So we are not even going to factor in how many pools are getting in 3.4 because players who wanted to pool in the Fate Codec banner, they would have saved way longer in advance, right? It's not like Fate Collab banner just got announced last week and all of a sudden we need to get 200 pulls just for this time to get Archer Signature Lycon, for both free-to-plays as well as banners alike. So an analogy would be something like if you wanted to, do well in an exam, right? But you didn't really study for the exam, which has been announced very, very long ago, months ago, all the way until the very last day before the exam. And then these players, they complain, oh my god, why did I not have enough time to study? This exam was way too last minute. I don't have enough time and I'm going to do very well, when they have really spent all this time just doing anything else but study for the exam. So that is pretty much one of the analogy I want to compare this with. And the bottom line is basically players who wanted to pull for the Fate banner units, you would have already saved up for the Fate banner months in advance. And players who did not want to get the Fate units from like whatever reason, right? Simply because you don't like Saber, you don't want to get final, whatever it's gonna be, you wanted to pull like for example like Hysalines or Farina, there will be no impact on whether or not this Archer Lycon will be given for free or with however amount of pulls. To simply put this into perspective, the Archer Lycon event given at 200 pulls, it has never taken into account the players who did not save for Fate as the main target audience to begin with. As shown from the numbers that I've shown you guys just now, if players wanted to get at least an E0 S1, right? Let's just say E0 S1 Saber or any of the 5 stars like Final and Tribi, they would have stashed up the pulls closer to the 200 mark. Maybe not 200, right? Maybe 100, 120, 130, and then with the influx of pulls within 3.4, they would have gotten enough 200 for the Signature Lycon, right? So the Archer Lycon given at 200 pulls, it is ultimately a player-friendly way of reducing the pressure on players who already wanted to pull in Fate Collab, wanted to pull with preparation, right, keyword, in the first place, saving them the 86 pulls that they would have otherwise spent for Archer's Signature Lycon. And hopefully this point is gonna be helpful for you, right? Now, another point that's gonna be discussed is that it is basically impossible to get 200 pulls by 3.4 because the last 3 banners, they were all masked pull banners. And so this is gonna be another common point that was brought up, that masked pull banners in Honkai starrail, where they will have back-to-back Caceres, Hyacinth, and Cypher, and they're all like super meta, super good, tier 0, triple tier 0 in private, every single one of this. Oh my god, all the other DPS fell off. These are the best units, and if you don't pull them, you simply cannot play the game. This is very reminiscent of something that it's almost like I've played these games before. I won't really go into the whole endgame discussion here because there are more than sufficient examples showing how clearing endgame is completely viable without any of the last 3 banner units. Hell, even without the version 3 teams, you can still clear the endgame content. But notwithstanding that point, the same players that are complaining that we are getting mass pull banners in Honkai starrail, they probably fell into the same trap of losing sight of the bigger picture. It has never ever been sustainable to constantly pull for meta, which is pretty much going to be the best teams right now at this point of time, especially for the free-to-plays, because endgame in Honkai starrail, they are constantly updated to shield for the latest unit, be it with environmental buffs or enemy archetype. So let's just say even if the players could not clear the endgame, the amount of pulls that you will lose out is inconsequential compared to the amount of pulls that you have dedicated into pulling for that unit. So if you let the pressure of clearing the endgame blindside you from your initial objective of saving for the Fate collab, with all due respect, that was probably not the smartest move, because Honkai starrail is and always will be a casual game for the casual audience. And you guys can check out this video that, my editor made from last time. And if not pulling for a unit means having more difficulty clearing the endgame, but in contrast, you save thousands and thousands of Stellar Jades with or without a collab in mind, I would see that as an absolute win, because when the next environment rolls around, new units and team comps will be shielded again. So the players who lack self-control and discipline because you feel inadequacy from your accounts not clearing the endgame, you are not greedy and stupid. You simply need to step back and look at the bigger picture, that you really lose nothing from not clearing endgame because the cost will always far outweigh the benefits. And the bottom line for playing Honkai starrail, if you want to play Honkai starrail to feel that you are him because you can clear endgame content, I feel like there are way cheaper games and way better games out there, specifically tied to a gacha game, right? So that is pretty much going to be it. And the last counterpoint, which is going to be, if you only wanted E0 S0, right? You didn't want to pull for an E0 S1. Now, you are forced to pull for another Lycon just for the sake of Archer's Lycon. So, if you only wanted to pull for a E0 S0, so let's just say E0 S0 Saber, and then you wanted to be happy with the E0 S0 Archer that you're beginning for the free event, now you have to pull the Lycon in order to get the other Lycon. Is this a predatory move? Like I mentioned, before? Yes, it is. But the answer is very simple if you want to take a look back in the numbers over here again. For the general median population, the pools for an E0 S0 is at roughly 115 pools, which the argument of being forced to pool just for Archer's Light Cone instantly falls apart because you would have quite literally saved yourself 86 summons, the almost exact amount that is needed to hit the 200 pool criteria if you did not pool for the Signature Light Cone. It is not about being forced to pool for the sake of Archer's S1, it's more like if you already wanted an E0 S1 in the first place, this event gives you another Signature Light Cone for free 99, which saves you the 86 summons that you would have otherwise spent. It is more so of a buy one get one free situation. Sure, it is a free light cone, but if you did not even intend to pull E0 S1 in the first place, then you would have walked away saving the exact same amount of pools for future banners. This is like the exact same comparison to people who think that you're losing money if you don't get a 1-for-1 deal, right? Or if you're losing money if you don't get a Shopee June 6 sale at like 50, 60, 70%. No, you will never ever lose money by spending money. Just like how you will never ever lose pools, you're forced to pools by simply not pooling just for the sake of an Archer Light Cone, right? So with that, I've pretty much come to the end of this quick little video. Hopefully this can help some of you guys. And like I mentioned, this whole video is not to instigate you guys want to start a war, you guys want to use this to brigade or whatever. This is simply just a very, very logical and nuanced perspective as to how I feel this entire Light Cone event has been designed from head to toe, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm gonna go back into overworking and cooking of finance guide immediately after this, so it is what it is. What over there is gonna be overworking. Join Twitch, join Discord, join Gig. Use code POKE 10% off gamers. Use code POKE 10% off gamers. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.